There are moments in life when a sentence doesn't just enter your mind, it enters your chest. It settles there deep like it was always meant to be found. I remember the night it happened to me, a long day behind me, silence in front of me, and a heart somewhere in the middle, cluttered with things I didn't have the courage to sort through. The kind of silence that presses on your ears, that reminds you how loud your own thoughts can be. Bills scattered on the table, regrets piled higher than the paperwork. The faint hum of the refrigerator was the only sound in the room, and somehow in that dim, tired space, I stumbled onto a clip. A simple man talking softly, honestly, no theatrics, no spotlight, and he said something that stopped time in that small room. Islam isn't a religion, he said. It's a complete way of life. And those words didn't shock me. They steadied me. They didn't rise. They sank straight into a part of me I didn't even realize was listening, because the truth is, deep down, I knew I'd been living in pieces, surviving in fragments, and those words hinted at something whole, something I didn't have. I leaned back, staring at the glow of the screen like it was speaking directly to me. A way of life? What did that mean? I understood religion, or at least I thought I did. Traditions, ceremonies, days of worship sprinkled through the year. But a way of life? That felt bigger. That felt wider, deeper, fuller. It felt like a path, not just a belief. And I found myself whispering a question I wasn't ready for. What if the peace I've been searching for lives inside a life I've never explored? That question was heavier than anything on that table, heavier than the bills, heavier than my past. It didn't demand an answer. It demanded honesty. And I knew I couldn't walk away from it. So I began learning, slowly at first, then hungrily. Videos, articles, stories, experiences, not to debate, not to argue, not to confirm old assumptions I didn't even realize I had, but to understand, to listen, to approach something sacred with an open palm instead of a closed fist. And the more I learned, the more something inside me shifted, because I realized Islam wasn't something people practiced like a hobby. It wasn't part-time. It wasn't a costume people put on and took off. It was a blueprint, a system, a structure that held you up when life tried to take you apart, a rhythm for the heart, a map for the soul. One of the first things that hit me was the meaning behind the word Islam itself: submission. Not a broken submission, not a surrender of defeat, but a peaceful submission, the kind you feel when you're tired of holding the steering wheel of a car that's been drifting for years. Submission to something higher, something wiser, something that sees the whole road, not just the curve in front of you. That alone shook me, because I lived most of my life trying to control everything, holding things too tightly, even when they slipped through my fingers anyway. But Islam spoke of letting go, not to lose power, but to find peace. Then I learned about prayer, not as a ritual, but as an anchor. 5 times a day, the world pauses, not for productivity, not for business, not for stress, but for recalibration, for remembering, for breathing. 5 checkpoints in a chaotic world to straighten the spine of the soul. I thought about how many days I let pass without grounding myself even once. How many storms I walked through barefoot, wondering why my feet were torn up. The discipline in it stunned me. The beauty in it moved me. The consistency in it humbled me. And then there was zakat, charity, not a tip, not a donation tossed in as a gesture, but a purification, a cleansing of the heart from greed, ego, selfishness, a reminder that what you own is not really yours, that wealth doesn't make you bigger, responsibility does. I read stories of people giving from the little they had, and something inside me broke open. I realized I grew up around people who had more than enough, but lived like they were starving. And here were people who barely had enough, but lived like they were full. Every concept unfolded like that, gentle, powerful, precise. Islam didn't sit beside life. It flowed through it. It shaped mornings and nights. It shaped speech and silence. It shaped money and mercy. It shaped relationships, boundaries, purpose, identity. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't just receiving information, I was receiving clarity. It made me think about my own journey. The wandering, the mistakes I romanticized as lessons, the moments I thought were strength but were really stubbornness, the compromises I made calling them freedom when they were really just distractions from the emptiness I didn't want to face. And I asked myself questions I never had the courage to ask. How many of my failures came from not having a compass? How much of my pain came from walking without direction? How many of my sleepless nights were simply the absence of alignment, not with the world, but with myself? Islam revealed something uncomfortable but necessary, that peace isn't found in pleasure, it's found in discipline, that happiness isn't found in chasing desires, it's found in mastering them, that purpose isn't found in noise, it's found in stillness. This world says, follow what you feel, but Islam says, follow what is right. This world says, if it's easy, it's meant for you. Islam says, if it's right, it won't always be easy. This world says, build a life that looks good. Islam says, build a life that is good. Those contrasts exposed me. They shined a light on the corners of my life I avoided, the places where I called myself free because I didn't want to call myself lost, the times I called myself strong because I didn't want to call myself proud, the moments I settled for temporary comfort instead of long-term peace. Islam didn't just introduce me to new ideas, it introduced me to myself. And then something unexpected happened. I started observing the people around me through a new lens. The friend who woke before the sun rose, slipping quietly into prayer while everyone else slept and carried a calmness I couldn't explain. The neighbor who gave without announcing it, without needing applause. The coworker who stayed honest, even when dishonesty would have benefited them. And suddenly I understood. Islam wasn't theory. It wasn't poetic lines on a page. It wasn't symbolism. It was lived. It was breathed. It was walked minute by minute, day by day. And in that understanding, I wrote down 3 truths that shook me deeper than any quote I'd heard before. Peace isn't the absence of problems. Peace is the presence of purpose. Strength isn't measured by how much you can carry. Strength is knowing what to put down. And faith isn't a feeling. Faith is a direction. Islam is a direction, not vague, not shifting, not dependent on moods or trends or seasons, a clear, steady path. The more I learned, the more I felt something unfamiliar, alignment, a sense that life actually has a shape, that maybe I wasn't meant to wander aimlessly, that maybe I wasn't built for chaos, that maybe discipline wasn't restriction, maybe it was protection. And slowly, I began to breathe differently, see differently, think differently, because understanding Islam didn't convert me into something else. It revealed parts of myself I had buried under noise, pride, and fear. I'm not here pretending I'm a saint now. I still stumble. I still get overwhelmed. I still wrestle with the same storms as everyone else. But now, I carry a sense of structure inside me, a quiet compass pointing me back when I drift, a framework that reminds me that life is not random, suffering is not pointless, struggle is not punishment, and peace, real peace, is not accidental. Islam taught me that you don't wait for peace, you build it, you cultivate it, you protect it. And the more I understood, the more grateful I became. Grateful for the clarity, for the discipline, for the wisdom people live every day, not as a performance, but as a path that teaches you how to treat people, how to speak, how to forgive, how to stand, how to fall, how to rise again. Islam isn't just about worship, it's about living, it's about becoming, it's about embodying mercy, discipline, gratitude, humility, sincerity, not in moments, but in habits. And somewhere along the way, I heard something, not aloud, but inwardly, something subtle, something soft, a gentle invitation, not to a religion, but to a way of being, a way of walking through life that feels whole, a way of seeing the world that feels steady, a way of carrying yourself that feels honest, a way of breathing that feels peaceful. And I realized that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't something foreign to me. Maybe it was something I had been aching for without knowing its name. Some truths don't echo, they don't shout, they don't shake the room, they settle, they sink into the quiet spaces of the heart where nothing else has ever fit. And this truth settled straight into my soul.